Hello friends, happy to have you here. I've been on a little YouTube hiatus, but I am back and better than ever so that I can give you some budget travel tips that have worked really well for me and that are realistic. I don't travel with $0, but I also don't have $1 million to spend on travel. So the first category I want to talk about is transportation, and I want to talk a little bit about flights to start off. So if you don't know, you should always look for flights on Tuesdays. You might think that's crazy, but deals come out on Tuesdays. So look for your flights on Tuesdays. I always have a bunch of Google Flights tracked. It's actually a really great way to compare prices, and it sends you updates if the prices go up or down. There's also other ways that you can track flights and deals like on Skyscanner, but personally, Google Flights works the best for me. However, there's so many other forms of transportation, and for this video in general, I'm talking about kind of US side, not international right now. But for the US, when you're talking about traveling between states or between cities, you're gonna need some sort of car or Ubers or taking a bus line or something. If you don't have a car, there's an awesome site called Turo that you can do, which is like a cheaper way to rent out somebody else's car, basically like Airbnb, but just somebody else's car. If you're under 25, that's where they get you, and they do charge you quite a hefty fee because of that, but that's like for all rental car fees, so that's super annoying, but one day we'll get there, guys. Soon we'll all be 25 and we can rent cars for cheaper amounts. But also a lot of public transportation is actually free, so just look into what bus lines you can take, or it's only a couple dollars, which is super nice. And whenever you can, just try to get to know people, because those are the people that will tell you like the tips and tricks of how to get around. For example, when I was visiting St. John's, when I was living on a smaller island in the Virgin Islands, I learned that there was like a $1 special shuttle I could take to go around the whole island instead of one that cost more. So get to know the locals, and they will fill you in on the best ways that you can get between cities or states. The next big section I want to talk about is accommodation/lodging. So I'm going to be referring to my best friend Kenna, who I've traveled with a ton, because she travels even more than I have, and she roughs it more than I do, so she has some even better tips. But I always check Airbnb and Vrbo, for example. But if you're going to do a longer stay, I highly recommend checking out Workaway. I have another video up about that on my channel, so if you go look, there's a bunch of videos about my experience on Workaway. But that's basically a work trade where you work for families, and in exchange you get free lodging. Because for me, lodging is always the most expensive part, and so if you can get free lodging, that's amazing. Also, if like Kenna, you work a seasonal job, usually they have employee housing that's either super cheap or maybe even free, so definitely check that out. I also recommend just reaching out to people that you know, friends, extended family that you know are in the area. When we did a road trip in Colorado, like that's how we made it cheaper, was by reaching out to Kenna's cousin, reaching out to one of my best friends so that we could crash for a few nights, because it really makes a big difference if you don't have to spend money on lodging, or if you get a less than the amount that you spent on it by staying with friends. But another great thing that you can do for lodging or accommodations is campground. So you can stay in a cabin, you can tent camp. Kenna recommends even just using hammocks, because that's way easier to pack around. Or you can even just sleep on the ground, and hopefully the weather's nice and it'll be fine, because that's incredibly cheap. She has even slept in her car before, which I have not. So you can do that, and you can even try and go places that you don't have to, it's like public land, so you don't have to pay for it. So that's literally free. So if you're really balling on a budget, you can do that. You can car camp, you can sleep under the wide open stars. For me, that's usually not my favorite thing, but I love to camp in general if I could get a little bit nicer of accommodations. So yeah, check out local campgrounds, check out VRBO, Airbnb, hostels. I think we have a few of them in the US. I'm not 100% sure, but you can always check those ones out out as well. Otherwise, I highly recommend, if you want to even just do some sort of work trade for like 2 weeks and you get free lodging, it's totally worth it. So those are my best tips on lodging thus far, and I'm sure I will get a lot more for you and internationally when I expand my travels there super soon. Now let's talk activities for a while, because activities are things that can really add up depending on what you're doing. Kenna recommends this and I do too, but meeting people is like the most important thing. Whether you're there for a week or you're doing a longer stay, like up to a month plus months, whatever, meet people, because not only will they help you with transportation and with lodging, but you can also become friends with them and they can help hook you up with free activities if they want to take you ATVing or rafting, or they just teach you the cheapest way to accomplish whatever activity you want to do. Another thing I want to talk about is food, because we all love food so much, and I have found that going out to eat is what is the biggest amount of money that I spend a lot of times that I wasn't planning on. So truth be told, if you're really trying to travel on a budget, don't go out to eat that much. There's such a better way to spend your money on cool activities and safer, better lodging instead of spending all your money on going out to eat. So I always love to pack food. You can do bagged salads, you can pack like lunches and snacks, or try to just go out for dinner and have your breakfast and lunch already packed. Check out a local grocery store or a farmer's market to have good local food, but without having to spend $1 million. I also have to mention that when I was living in the Virgin Islands, we packed an entire cooler worth of snacks that ended up lasting us through 6 weeks of the Virgin Islands and 6 weeks through Hawaii, and saved us so much money. So pack your foods. Don't waste all your money on food, guys. That's a great way to save your money or waste your money right there. And the last thing I want to talk about is a little bit about how you can travel for longer. Like I mentioned at the beginning, is that check out Workaway, check out a seasonal job, or even if you want to travel and not do necessarily that, you can look for a job even if it's only going to be for 3 weeks. Kenna literally did that. She moved out and she was a lifty for 3.5 weeks, and that's it. You might not think there's jobs, but there is, and you can do it if you do your research. When we were traveling for all about 3 months, when we were on islands, we put together an engagement video for somebody. We were an extra on a TV show. I babysat somebody's child. Like, there's so many random jobs that you could come across if you talk to people, become friends with people, and if you really want to make your amazing travel dreams come true, then you just have to be creative, and that includes just reaching out to people, seeing if there's a job you can literally work for 3 weeks so you can stay in an epic place for a lot less money. So these are just a few of my travel tips on a budget. I'm sure I will have a lot more travel tips to give you as I continue traveling more and more. But those are some tips that I hope that you can find helpful. I always like to go with friends too. The more people you have, the cheaper it gets. I know everybody has a different experience with traveling and different levels of comfort they have with traveling. I personally don't really want to sleep in my car, so I'd rather sleep in a tent or maybe just spend that extra $50 to stay in a hostel or an Airbnb. But everybody has a different way that they like to travel, so hopefully this is helpful for those of you who may be like me, where we want to travel on a budget, but we also want to be safe and comfortable. I miss you guys. I'll be coming back on here more soon. I have a couple other videos in the works, but I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day, and please give this a like if you like this video. Check out my channel or my Instagram at MJ's Moments, because I have a lot of exciting adventures coming up and I would love to share them with you. Have a great day. Bye. That's very good. Oh God. I've been doing yoga lately.